the picture I do want to talk about, I actually don't have in front of me, from 2017, and it is the picture of me in the changing room. You guys, yourself, Alwyn, Ross, and Hendy.
So I remember, like, when you first walked into the hotel room and you were like, right, do you mind if I do X, Y, Z? You know, I'm going to be in the change room, I'm going to be here. Remember the video boys saying the same. And I was like, guys, like, you do whatever you want, because I think it's really important that people see what a Lions tour is really about. They need to see those moments. I know, because they said, oh, some captains have said certain pre-match talks or some meetings they don't want us in. And I'm like, you can come in on anything. Like, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. Unless somebody else objects, but from my point of view, you can do whatever you want. So I never played a Lions game, and I was never preparing for a match. I never thought, oh, where's Dan? It was great in a way that it was not just like when you're in the change room, unless you've been in one, you don't know, I guess. But when your physio's walking around and he's taping the boys up, he's one of the team. So you don't look at him and go, oh, that's the physio. He's just one of the team. It's just one of the team. You see the team doctor walking around, giving the boys their tablets or whatever they need. He's just one of the team. You see the kit man. He's sorting out everything. He's one of the team. You're walking around with your camera around your neck. You're just one of the team. It's not like there's the staff and there's the players and there's the masters, there's the physios, there's video. You're all in there as one team. And I think you all know how much of a privilege it is to be in a Lions dressing room. So it never felt out of the way. And because, like, the boys had a good relationship with every member of staff. You know, I got a really good relationship with yourself and the physios and the coaches and all of the backroom staff, sports science. You know, it was crazy amount of people there. But they all, like, you can see in everyone's face how desperate everyone is to win. They're not there on a jolly. We're all there to win. And, you know, I would probably come and embrace you in a change room like I would embrace any of the other players, you know, because you're all just part of the team. And that's what's so special about it. So that's why I had no idea that photo was taken of me, Ross, and Hendo and Alwyn after that provincial Barbars game. We were like 3-4 days into that test, into that tour. We were all pretty jet lagged. We were banged up. I injured my ankle, which is why I got ice on there. My legs are shredded to bits, as they are every game, from studs. Muzz was sitting all awkward because he had a nerve problem. He didn't end up playing. He had a bad nerve in his back, and he didn't end up playing for another 6 to 9 months. Alwyn had a concussion. Hendo banged up his shoulder. I wouldn't ever look at that photo, I guess, because you're used to it, and think, oh, what an amazing photo. Because that is what a change room's like. That's what you see every week. But people don't see that, and that's what we forget. Like, people don't see that's what your body goes through to play a test match. And now I look back and I love that photo because, like, you captured it perfectly. That is post-match for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. When you come back in the changing room, before the coach makes his address to the team, before the physios and the doctors walk around and check if everyone's okay, you all just sit down for 2-3 minutes and have a bit of silence just to... because you're so battered and banged up, just to come down and just to have a couple of minutes to yourself before then you can switch on and take in some information. But that's what it's like. And, you know, you captured it perfectly. And the more time I'm retired, the more I look back and I think, wow, like, when you're in that cauldron of a dressing room, you think, oh, there's got to be easier ways of having a living than this. This is brutal. But then when you get taken out of it and I look at that picture, I think, I would do anything to be thrown straight back into that and do it all over again. But it's just the norm when you're doing it. You know, you would have seen it 1,000 times, players have seen it 1,000 times, but that's what's brilliant about having photographers like yourself in there under the radar and video guys, is that everyone can access those moments and have a glimpse of, you know, what it's like to be in a Lions dressing room. So that's why I absolutely love that picture. I can tell you the one moment I realised we were going to do something special on that tour. I know we didn't win and we drew, but it was still a special tour, wasn't it? The one moment I thought we were going to do something special, because, you know, at that top level, it doesn't really matter what X factor individuals you've got in your team. You need to know that you've got that team spirit and belief and, like, work ethic for each other. You need to know you've got that. And the one moment I realised we had that was, so Gats wanted to do the choir. And when we did the first few choir practices and the first week in Wales in our training camp, you know, the sessions were guys were a bit embarrassed. They didn't buy into it 100%. Like, we were going to do it, but they were just shy. You know, shy to sing, thought, oh, people judging me for singing. Like, people were a bit reserved. And we went out to Ireland. I remember Gatlin said to us, when then all the squad had pretty much joined up together in Ireland, apart from a few. And he said, right, guys, when we land in New Zealand, there's going to be like a big press welcoming. It's going to be live cameras. there's going to be like traditional Maori events going on. We need to respond with a song. So you need to know the words, because we can't be holding these hymn sheets in a week's time when we land in New Zealand. So anyway, we finished that week's training camp in Ireland, and we had a few choir practices. And boy, you were thinking, oh yeah, boys know the words, but there's a lot of hymn sheets being held up in front of them and stuff. And you remember, like the last night, or the last but one night we were in Ireland, we all went out for Lions food and drink, and it turned out a little bit not boozy, but we had a few alcoholic drinks, and a bit of team bonding. But we were in the restaurant, you remember, and we basically took over the bottom floor of this restaurant. There's so many of us in there, because the Lions squad is not just the 40 players, it's the 30, 40 management. So there's like 80 of us in this restaurant, isn't it? And like at this point, I remember thinking like, oh, I don't know if the boys are buying into this choir. I knew all the words and stuff, but I wonder if the boys are buying into it. And then we had a good laugh. We finished our meal, and the boys had been singing a few on the way. And Carl Sinclair was obviously the choir master for the English song, wasn't he? And he was a bit of a cult hero with the boys. So I remember one of the lads went, "Sings, like, lead us the England song," So then he was like, no, I don't want to do it. And we all egged him on, and inevitably he stood up in the middle of the restaurant and he started singing the English song. It was Jerusalem, wasn't it? So, and then the 80 of us all belted out Jerusalem with no hymn sheets. We knew it word for word perfect, and we belted at the top of our voices. And everyone was like cheering and loving it. So we went, right, Greg, because Greg Laidlaw was Scotland, wasn't he? Right, lead us for the Scottish song, Highland Cathedral. So Greg got up. We all belted out Highland Cathedral, word for word, perfect. Then we did the Welsh song. Then we did the Irish song with Robbie Henshaw. And then we were all having a massive laugh. We just belted out all 4 songs completely off the cuff, like just so natural. It wasn't, we didn't schedule a choir practice. We were in the middle of a restaurant having a few beers, but because we absolutely nailed those 4 songs, I just remember thinking, wow, behind closed doors, the boys have all been revising. Like, we got moves and stuff to learn, but we've all been revising this hymn sheet like crazy to make sure that we all know it for each other. So when that all happened and we had a good night out anyway, that's when I thought, the boys everyone's bought in 100%. And that's when I just realized, we've got it. Like, we just had that team spirit, and that's when I knew that everybody had just put their own agenda, their own ego aside, and put the Lions first. And that's when I realized we were going to do something special. I remember going back onto the bus after that night out and knowing the boys are committing themselves to choir practice that much. If they're willing to commit to choir practice that much, what are they going to do when you're in a rugby field, So from that moment, I knew we were going to have a pretty good tour.
A couple of moments. Nice little pose there, by the way.
Good t-shirt tan,
Yeah, good t-shirt tan. Yeah, a couple of moments like that, or a couple of moments where we would have practiced singing on the bus, or even rolling the dice. I mean, how good are those to get to know people? I mean, you kind of touched on it at the beginning when we went to the restaurant in Ireland, and everybody sang each song from a country: England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and then you got that feeling where you thought this was the moment where where you knew that we could do this. But like those moments when these people get together, whether it is having a beer or rolling a dice, I mean, how important are they?
Yeah, so the sort of the fun that goes with Lions tours, like, there's so much pressure. There is an enormous amount of pressure to win, enormous amount of pressure. So you have to have those moments where you can actually just be human and just enjoy each other's company, because it keeps you sane. Like, that's why I think rugby environments are quite similar across the world, because there's a lot of pressure playing rugby, physical and emotional. You need to be able to come down from that and enjoy each other's company. And that's why having a good time on a Lions tour is so important. So remember, like, teams, it's pretty normal. All countries have committees. So I remember I sat down, right, we've got to get committees together. So I got a guy from each country. I think I got Hoggy from Scotland. Was it Paulie from Ireland? I think it was Faz from England. I was like, right, lads, we need to get committees together, and you can tell me which guy from which country would be good in that committee. So it could be entertainments, could be food, could be laundry. There's all sorts of different committees. So, and the fines committee, I remember it was, I said, well, for Wales, we use Richard Hibbard. He's always been brilliant for our fines. And then I think Owen Farrell said, Jeff Parlin is great. He does our fines in England. So we got, right, those two will run fines for us. So they were the fines committee. It was their idea to do the dice rolls. They bought a big fluffy dice, and 1 to 6 had a forfeit on it. And I remember Gatland, like, you know, well, we rolled the dice, and Richard, when we were flying from, you remember, from Hong Kong to Australia in 2013, there was only space. Say there was 36 players, there was only 35 business class seats. So Warren Gatland said, right, one player has to go in economy to Australia. So I was chatting to the team manager, and he said, Sam, I think you should do it as captain, just to, like, you know, show you, like, your commitment to the team. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. Little to people's surprise, I was injured. So the physios were like, right, Sam can't go in economy, he's injured. He needs to be able to lay flat so his knee can stay straight. So I was like, oh, thank God for that. So I was like, right, I'm in business. So, and then we played a game in Hong Kong. So then we had a team meeting, and Gatland said, right, there's 35 spaces, there's 36 boys. Like, you don't have to just be from England to figure out that doesn't work. So he said, right, if you're injured, you're going in business class. And suddenly, like, a lot of the room has a sigh of relief. They know they've got a niggle, they're going to be in business. If you just play against the Barbarians, because we played the Barbars, didn't we, in Hong Kong, you might be, but if you've been picked for the first game we played in Perth, I think, if you're picked for the first game, you're definitely going to be in business as well. So suddenly this is whittled down now to about 10 boys. He said, if you're over 6 foot, then you're going to be in business because you need the leg room. So this is like whittled it down. And then there was only like 2 players left. I just remember one of them was Richard Hibbard. And everyone was like looking at the 2 players left. I can't remember who the second player was, but Hibbs was one of them. So like we all knew, everyone was laughing. It's like, oh, we're all in business. It's going to be Hibbs or someone else. And Warren Gatland said, right, I know as a fellow hooker, I would have taken one for my team. So Richard Hibbard, you're going in economy. So Hibbs went in economy. So then Hibbs ended up having a fine. And you remember we were in Australia, and then he had to roll the dice. So he rolled the dice from 1 to 6. And one of the fines was you have to find your way home from training. But another one was if you rolled a 4, for example, you're allowed to nominate someone else to roll the dice. So Richard Hibbard had a fine. He had to go out and roll the dice. Everyone's hoping he was going to have to ring his coach or walk home from training or shave his head or something. You roll the dice, you roll the number 4, which is nominate someone else. And Hibbs obviously holds a grudge. And I remember, this is like a week's gone by now. I remember he turned to Gatland and he said, you roll the dice. I want Warren to roll the dice. I nominate Warren. And what a lot of people might forget is Warren had to get up, he rolled the dice. You rolled a 3, which is find your own way home from training, which is like a 4 or 5 mile walk. And you remember he just broke both heels, didn't he, cleaning his windows in his beach house in New Zealand. So Hibbs was ruthless and made Gats have to walk home. We didn't forget that he chucked him in economy. And like everyone was in stitches, laughing their heads off. Like how, and Hibbs didn't start the first test of that series, but like people think how, like it's just great because like there's no, like, in it, like obviously Gatland's our leader, you know. But when you're having those fun moments, there is no hierarchy. Everyone just has a laugh with each other. And that's what a Lions tour is all about. But you have those fines meetings were the highlights of the week, weren't they? You know, I bet it was your job, you know, to be at the front of that meeting, make sure you got capture the boys' laughter and emotion. But 13 was the best one for that. For fines meetings and funny meetings, the highlight of the week was always the Monday fines. You know, it was always brilliant. Getting the dice out and rolling the dice. There's obviously the famous Simon Zebo phone call. But that's just gold dust for Lions tours. And that was brilliant. One of the really nice, reassuring things people hear when they have Warren as their coach the first time, the first team meeting he does, whether it was in 13 or 17, he does it with every Wales campaign as well. There's going to be new guys there who haven't been coached by him. And he always says, if there's anything, like first things first, if anything that you want to speak to us about, not relating to rugby, whether it's like family members, health, you've got a problem, you need to go to the hospital, your wife, anything, please come to us and let us know, because we'll give you the time off. Because if things are good at home, then they're going to be good on the rugby field. So make sure family comes first, always. Family first, rugby second. And he always says that at the start of campaigns or tours, for example. And it's really nice because every player leaves that who hasn't heard that. And they go, wow, like they don't expect a coach to hear that. Normally coach is all about win, performance, win, win, win. But it's all about family first, you know, and that kind of sets the tone for the tour. So yeah, on both tours, there were family rooms where only family members with players could go, so you could just actually get away from the hype. And you love the fans and you love the support you get, but sometimes it's nice to sit down just for 20 minutes and have a coffee with your dad or your brother or your wife or whoever it may be, your kids, and just get away from being a Lion and just be dad or brother or son. You know, like it's nice to have those moments during the manic craziness of a tour. So, and then there was we had Father's Day out there, didn't we? We had Father's Day on the last tour, and Warren set up a team meeting off the cuff, and we thought, oh, maybe something controversial happened. One of the boys has done something they shouldn't. I don't know what had happened. So we all sat down for this meeting, and then they put this massive overhead projector up, and everyone was in there, wasn't it? Staff and players, and they just played a Father's Day message from everyone who had a kid, anyway, for everyone's little kids. Happy Father's Day, love you, Dad, whatever. And like everyone left that room, or the dads left that room, like all welling up, weren't we? And it was a crazy moment, but it was so nice. And I remember sitting there thinking it was going to be quite a strict performance-related meeting. And then I was waiting, the screen was black, and Anna, my daughter, was the first one on screen, and she popped up on screen straight away. And it took my breath away, literally took my breath away. I hadn't seen her for like 5 weeks. I've been in the hotel room. I told my wife, don't come out with her, because to come out to New Zealand, it would have been selfish of me to ask my wife to come all the way out with a 1-year-old. It's a tough trip to New Zealand, just so I could see her momentarily, because you're so busy on tours anyway, traveling anywhere. It would have been selfish of me to ask her to bring her out. So I said, just come out on your own. Don't bring her out with you. She can stay at home, my mum. She'll be fine. So she only came out for a week, my wife. But I used to look at my hotel room door and think, oh my goodness, what I would do just to see Anna burst through that door now and run onto my bed so I can play with her. But obviously I knew that wasn't going to happen. So when I saw that video, like it literally, I couldn't, like, completely took my breath away. It was amazing. And all the players, we walked out, and the management, because it was even the staff members' kids were talking. And even the boys who didn't have kids were like, oh, I need to have a kid now, like it inspired Mauro, he said, oh, I wish I had a kid. Like, it was just funny, it was really funny. But they're the nice family moments that we have. And the Lions and Warren recognise that was hugely important to people, so you got to embrace that. On 17, we went to Christchurch, and they had the earthquake there a few years before, didn't they? So we went to the, you would have been there, because you were obviously capturing all the photos for it. And you would have remembered there was a lady there. I don't know who she was at the time. There was a lady there with her 2 sons, and her sons must have been 8 and 6, 8 and 5, something like that. And we went around the memorial, and it was all really, like, it was quite eerie, but like, it was a privilege at the same time. They made this beautiful wall, didn't they, with all these names on. And they were all the victims of the earthquake. So I finished doing my bit. We were all suited and booted for the Lions, and I remember thinking, wow, this is crazy. It kind of puts rugby into perspective for you. And they were so grateful for the fact that the Lions had made time to go to the Christchurch Memorial, and they wanted me to meet this lady and these 2 boys, and they're really happy and smiley. And I said, I was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you and stuff. And I had a picture of them. And we played the Crusaders 2-3 days later. I said, you going to the game? And they said, oh, no, we can't get tickets. So I was like, oh, it was a sellout. And I thought, it must be a really popular game. Then they said, oh, can we show you, can you meet my dad? So I was like, oh, yeah, great. Yeah, is he a rugby fan? Let's go meet him. So these 2 boys walked me over, and they to the wall. They pointed at their dad's name on the wall. And he's one of the victims. Oh, my God. And they were so proud that his name was there. I mean, genuinely, I started welling up. And I saw Charlie McEwen, who was the COO of the Lions at the time. I remember saying, Charlie, oh, for goodness sake, let's give these guys some tickets. So, the least we could do. They were so brave about their dad dying, and they were so proud to show me on the wall. And you go through moments like that, and you just realise how insignificant really rugby is in comparison to life. But by going over there, and then we gave them tickets. The Lions sorted out the 2 boys and their mother, and they didn't ask for them. They were being really nice and humble, but they managed to go to the game then, and they enjoyed the game. And we saw them on the match day and stuff, and it was great. But you almost felt embarrassed that you were getting nervous over playing a game on a Saturday. Or when people say, how do you manage nerves when you play for the Lions? It's like, you go through moments like your township experience, or my experience at Christchurch Earthquake Memorial. And you realise that what we're doing is we're in a privileged position, and there's people out there who are much worse off, who do anything to be in your position. We're playing a game, and there's much bigger battles out there, like poverty or like disease and death, and people take it in their stride, and they're so heroic about it. And so that's why I think, yeah, we're playing a game, and that puts the nerves of playing for the Lions, for example, into perspective for me when you go through those kind of life-changing experiences. Really. So like you, yeah, without a Lions tour, I wouldn't have experienced that. But yeah, seeing how brave those 6 and 8 year old boy was, and their mother, does definitely put rugby in perspective too.